Hello everyone, welcome to another Reflect video where we, look a bit inwardly so we can explore outwardly on our travel adventures. And this video I want to just, 2025, to be honest, it's been a bit crap. Okay, I'm going to explain why it's been a bit crap. But first, yes, I'm out for a walk. I'm trying the new explain yourself while out for a walk low edit approach that everyone's advocating, so we'll see how that goes. But first, why has it been crap? So there's been three reasons. First one, probably the primary one for the past 6 months or so, has been Daisy Dog's ill health. As people who go well back on this channel, if you're still here, know Daisy Dog's been a companion through it all, and she didn't make it through Easter this year. It was very traumatic, but so I think that took a few months to get over. And also, here's the best way I can describe it without insulting people who've been through what I'm about to compare it to, which isn't my intention. It's the closest I've come to looking after a relative who is in physical and cognitive decline. I don't mean to equalise it in any serious way, but that's the closest it's come to for me. I'll give you some examples, right? I stopped going out for walks other than the times when I'd go with Jack to help with his fitness. I literally haven't walked on the beach that's literally right next to the house for probably a year. Crazy. And the reason for that is, of course, Daisy Dog couldn't really go on them. It got to the point where, I used to be able to leave the house for a good 5 hours. It got to the point where 2 or 3 was pushing it, and I didn't really like doing that. And look, this is how, I was going to say inconvenient, but that's not what I mean. I mean it in terms of how it shrunk my mental world, right? So I have been sleeping on my sofa for probably 6 or so months, maybe more. And not now, but back then, because she couldn't sleep upstairs. I had to sleep close to her downstairs because, our bladder control was different. It was just easier to sleep on the sofa. So even my use of my own personal space in the house had shrunk before I get to the mental space issue. Reason 2, which I won't go into as much detail about. Suffice to say, it's been very stressful. It's not as stressful now. We've sort of come out of it a bit. But for the majority of 2025, up until, say, I went on my Havila Voyages trip, which we'll come back to, it's been absolute hell. Don't get me wrong. It's not all work's fault or anything like that. It's the environment and how my brain interfaces with that environment. It just became wrong for me a bit. And I learned that a lot of the hang-ups I thought I'd seen the back of in my 20s and say very early 30s just came flooding back. I lost weight. I was being sick in the mornings. I wasn't sleeping. It was bad. By any measure, it would have been a viable candidate to get leave on those grounds, right? But I sort of don't do that. I'm not advocating a burn through it and be a man or anything like that. I just, that's not my thing. I have also started wondering, so this is number 3, whether the fact that it's, I think it's coming up to a decade. I think July this year it was a decade since the divorce. Now, well over the divorce, distant past. Let's not go into that. If you want the abbreviated and I think quite funny story, there is a playlist with 3 videos in it, which are quite good, I think, which I could make with a bit of distance. But I think it's playing into the thoughts subconsciously, or it's become something that's played into my thoughts because I feel my world shrunk in a similar way. So what do I mean about this mental prison that I referenced in the title? Well, the result of all those 3 things I didn't really realise until I went on my Havila trip. Yeah, funny thing is, my 3 travel adventures this year will have all been on ships. That is probably a topic for another video. But anyway, I realised it on my Havila trip because I tell you something, the Havila trips are releasing now. It's taken me a lot of time to edit them. Playlist on the channel, you'll find it. But I tell you, if there's anything that counts as introvert crack, it is a Havila Voyages trip up and down the Norway coast. It is pure either introvert crack and bliss, or you're going to absolutely hate it. For me, introvert bliss. And my brain just wandered. My brain wandered, it explored, it meandered around. It wasn't in some sort of prison due to circumstance and events. And that's what it's all about, right? I realised, again, or maybe re-realised, that a lot of the reason I travel is obviously, like anyone else, is about where I've gone and what I'm seeing. That is obviously a part. But I would say equally, just as much, if not more, it is how my brain breaks out of jail. So I came off that trip sort of fully destined or fully planning to, I can't go back in jail. My brain just can't go back in jail. It's been in that jail for all of 2025 up till when I came off the Havila trip, which was about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago maybe. And I thought, I'm not going back in. I decided to care less about work. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't know. Maybe not caring as much is not the best way to describe it. Maybe getting a bit of distance from events so you're not immediately reacting or influenced by them. You know what I'm getting at. I can't articulate that sort of career stuff easily on this sort of unedited walk video, but I think you'll get the point, right? It wasn't possible to keep being as stressed as much continually. So I wanted to go on the beach as part of this walk, but it looks like the sea's in. Ian from 10 minutes into the future. Yes, the sea is in. Beach another day. So my over a year, probably longer, of not going on the beach is going to continue. Now the reason it's ridiculous I've not been on the beach, it was, I guess, one, a sign of how much Daisy Dog enhanced my life. She got me out, right? But the other thing is, me not going out walking was a symptom of what this mental prison looked like, right? It meant that my brain was never free to wonder, never free to speculate, never free to internally explore. It was always thinking about what was going on with Daisy Dog, what the next thing that was going to hit me at work. So all I did on evenings was watch YouTube and Netflix. Now, don't get me wrong, watching streaming TV shows is the last thing I will slag people off for, because, well, narrative escapes, right? The channel was about maybe something else originally, and I'm a big fan of scripted stories and reading books, so I'm the last person to complain about that. But I wasn't just doing it because there was great TV shows to watch. I was doing it because it was this crazy middle ground between something enough to distract my brain from its prison, but not enough for me to escape from the prison. So it was a way to, I guess it was a way for me to survive the prison. And I only really noticed how cloistered I'd put myself physically and mentally when I was on that Havila Voyages trip. Because, as I say one last time, as an introvert trip, immense, and I don't know, closest thing to introvert crack. So I'm glad I'm out of it. I guess the struggle I'll have now is we're coming up to the times change in about 3 weeks maybe, I don't know, but certainly in October at some point, and suddenly it's dark when you go to sleep, dark when you wake up, and dark when you finish work. So yeah, which has become a slightly more irritating experience as I've got older for some reason. But yeah, 2025 hasn't been great, and I'm learning to move a bit beyond Daisy Dog I learned that in that period I was definitely regressing a bit and shrinking back into myself. I learned that I have to distance myself from work a bit. I still need to be better at that. A way to sort of finish work, switch off, move on, not worry about it again till the following day. And walks like this used to help with that, right? So I'm trying to get back into that. And yeah, and just a recognition, I think, that for introverts like me, and maybe like you, travel necessarily isn't about the outrageous adventure or the amazing thing you saw, though I'm sure that's always part of it, because it is for me, right? I like seeing the amazing scenery and things like that. But sometimes it is literally about how your brain becomes untethered.